let's define a string first. A string is a sequence of characters, meaning letters, numbers, and other characters like the $sign, spaces, and punctuation marks, enclosed by single quotes, double quotes, or even triple quotes when spanning multiple lines. So, let's define a string and assign it to a variable. I'm going to create a variable named myString and assign it the following value. Now, checking the results, myString. So we used double quotes for defining this string. Next, using single quotes and checking the results again. So the result is the same, right? Okay. Now, what do we need triple quotes for? Well, we need them whenever we want to enter a string on multiple lines. For instance, a comment in our code. Let's see how can we do this. Let's assign the same text to the myString variable, this time with each word being on a separate line. So remember that after each word you have to hit enter to write the next word on a separate line. Finally, you should end the string with the same set of triple quotes and hit enter for the last time. Now let's check our variable myString. It looks like we have something new here. What's with all the \n's between the words of the string? Well, \n is called a new line character and it signals a new line being created at that particular point in the string. In plain language, it means that we are inserting a break and a new row, a new line in our text. Okay, so how we can get rid of them? It really looks weird this way, right? Don't worry, it's simple. We just have to add a \, wherever we want a new line to be inserted. This translates to something like go to the next row and continue the text there. So let's try this again. So we have a \, here, another one here, and the same for the following words, except for the last word in the string. Now let's hit enter again and check our variable. Okay, it works. No more new line characters. The insertion of \s is called escaping the new line characters. Remember this term because we will use it again later in the course. Now let's talk about indexing, and this concept applies to other data types as well. Python uses indexes to mark the position of an element within a sequence of elements. A string is a sequence of elements, and the elements of a string are the characters themselves. One character, one element. The first element of any sequence, when counting from left to right, has the index 0. Then the second element of the sequence has the index 1, the third element is positioned at index 2, and so on. So, when using indexes, remember to always start counting from 0. When counting backwards from right to left, the first index will be -1. So the last character in a string will have index -1 when looking from right to left. Indexes are enclosed by square brackets when we want to access some letter of a string. Let's see this in practice. Let's create another variable called string1 and assign it the value Cisco router. So string1 equals, in between double quotes, Cisco router. Now, how to extract the first character of this string? By using an index, of course, and as stated before, that would be index 0. So to access the element of string1 positioned at index 0 in the string, we should type the following: the name of the variable, string1, and then, without inserting any spaces, the index number in between brackets. So, okay, now let's hit enter. This returns the letter C, which is correct because this is the first character in the string. Now let's find the third character of string1. What index should we use? Index 2, right? So string1 of 2 returns S, which is indeed the third character in our string. Now let's see the sixth element. We would need string1 of 5, right? So let's check this. Okay, that would be the space character in between the words Cisco and router. Yes, spaces count as characters too. Now for the negative indexes, let's access the last character in the string. We will use index -1, right? So string1 of -1 returns the letter R. Good. What about string1 of -4? Who would that be? Well, let's count. -1 is R, -2 is E, -3 is T, and -4 would be the letter U. So let's check this. And indeed, we are correct. One more thing on indexes. What if we enter an invalid index for our string? Let's see what do I mean by that. First, let's find out the length of string 1. We can count how many characters are in that string visually, but what if we have a very long string, maybe a newspaper page? Python has a solution for this, and it is called the len function. This function is easy to use. Just type len, and without any spaces after it, add the variable name pointing to our string in between parentheses. So len of string 1 returns the number of characters, which is 12. Now back to the first question. What happens if we enter an invalid index? Well, let's try it. String 1 has 12 characters, so starting at index 0 and counting from left to right, the last character in the string should have the index 11, right? So string 1 of 11 returns R, which is correct. Now let's see what happens if we enter string 1 of 20, let's say. Well, we got an error. Let's celebrate. It is one of the first errors we see in this course. Errors are a great tool for learning and troubleshooting your code, so don't fear them at all. Now let's read the error text. It says index error, that is the type of the error. There are many types of errors in Python, and we will go through the most common ones later on in the course. Next, it says string index out of range. So Python found out that we typed in an invalid index in between the square brackets and told us that the index is indeed out of range because a 12-character string cannot have a character positioned at index 20, obviously. Now it's time to have a look at some string operations and methods that will help us work with this data type.